and welcome to a special April Fool's edition of INE Live. I'm your host, Jack Reedy, and today I'm going to be joined by Brooks Seahorn to share some of our more humorous stories from working in the trenches of IT and cybersecurity. Earlier this week, we asked you on our socials to submit some stories for us to take a look at and share live for a chance to win. Now, if you missed that post, don't worry. We are going to keep these shows going throughout the year. And if you want to get involved, we have two options for you. First, be sure to like, follow, or subscribe with the notifications turned on for whichever platform you're using so you can see the next time we do a giveaway for the IT stories. For the second, feel free to drop your story into chat. The mods will grab them and they'll send them my way. While you won't be eligible for the giveaway, we actually still might grab it, read it out live if it's good enough. And if this is your first time, welcome. We are streaming live across all the social media platforms right now, including LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Now, we definitely want you to get involved. We want to talk to you, talk to us, talk to others. We definitely love to see that. Our team is actively monitoring chat right now. And if you have a comment at any time, feel free to drop it in chat and we'll get to as many as we can today. Now, going to go ahead and ask that we bring in Brooks, our AWS cloud instructor. Prior to coming here, he was at AWS as an instructor for 3 years, and prior to that, he was a software developer and network engineer as a DoD contractor for 17 years. 20 years of experience. We are definitely glad to have you here, Brooks, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for the intro. The thing was, though, when you told me you wanted me to be on here, I was like, wait a second. Why does Jack want me to be on the I screwed up episode? Then I realized I know exactly why, because I got the stories. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah, basically, you are the Aesop's fables of IT, and constantly I'm loving everything that you're talking about and engaging with on the story. So I wanted to bring you on and wanted to have a good conversation with you as well.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, this will be fun. Tales of screw ups.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, we definitely want to get the chat involved. We have a story that we were able to pick out and is a winner of our giveaway that we'll get to in a little bit.
Yes.
But yeah, I kind of wanted to share with you, and I thought April Fool's Day would be a wonderful time to really get involved.
Exactly.
Really
well, especially, the thing about it is, Jack, is that a lot of people think that before you get into the IT world, that when mistakes happen, there's somehow professional level mistakes. It's like, no. The most ridiculous things happen. The silliest things happen. And it blows your mind trying to figure it out. So I think for us, for me particularly, it's not just getting to tell these stories, but I'm hoping for our listeners go, oh, there is a point to the story. There is a lesson back there. And a lot of it is just common sense. And like we as developers, as engineers and security folks looking at the things that happen going, wow, I can't believe that just happened. Cannot believe it.
Absolutely. And one of the things too that I think a lot of people don't realize is, sometimes it's people that are in the know, they're part of IT, they just human error. And sometimes it's users though that provide some of the most interesting stories in the engagement. So, we hope to see both sides of it. And I mean, your stories generally have a really good message behind them and, something positive or like a learning lesson. Mine are just sometimes like, I didn't learn anything from it. It was just this happened to me, and I can't like.
Those are the best stories, though. Those are the best. Who cares about a point? It's just like, wow, that's a story. Now I'm entertained.
There's been times where I have sat back, and I've been looking at something, and I was like, wow, that just happened. Okay, that was a thing that existed. So actually, I'm going to tell you about the time, I call it the second time I yelled at my boss, which, is an unusual title, but what it was, for those of you that are unfamiliar with a little bit of my background, I was a Marine in IT and IT security for approximately 9+ years, ballpark. And I've been deployed to Afghanistan twice. So this one actually happens while I was deployed to Afghanistan with an infantry battalion. We were unusual. All right. We had what was called RF connection communications, these things called WIPLs, which I'm not even sure they use anymore, but it stands for wireless point-to-point link. And what this basically is it's this dish, it's like 3 feet by 3 feet, And you basically just have to align it and point at the right part so you can do RF communication back and forth, right?
Mhm.
Sounds
Mhm.
pretty similar to a lot of stuff that we have nowadays that you can get on the consumer side. The thing about these dishes, though, is because we're using them in Afghanistan and because they're RF based, and because we were doing just the most ridiculous length of shots, one of our shots, we literally pointed it at the ground, it bounced down, bounced off the ground, and then bounced over a mountaintop. We're doing the most ridiculous stuff to make sure that we have internet connectivity all the way out at the near the very front of the line and everything in Afghanistan, and these things would get disrupted with sandstorms, like it was
Right.
ridiculous, right? So it
Right.
wasn't uncommon for me to have to go and fix them and realign them. And unfortunately, that's not a, hit a button type of job. I
Mhm.
literally have to stand out there like a weather vane and pull a
Yeah, you
pulley
do.
system for up and down, and then pull another pulley system for left and right, back and
Right?
forth. We got to the rainy season in Afghanistan. It loosened the ground up. We completely lost all of our tie downs for this equipment. And this thing did a nosedive straight into the wall
Ah.
wall of the complex that we are at. So then, because gear was so limited while I was there, resources were limited, I had to unequivocally prove that this thing was broken over the course of the next 2 days, constantly, consistently. I ended up spending about almost 48 hours straight up troubleshooting this thing because without this dish, I had no internet operations on my
Right.
on my group, which for those of you that don't know how we use internet operations whenever, you're forward deployed like that, it was the best way or quickest one of the quicker ways that we had to relay very specific information about like medevacs, about what type of logistics we needed for food support, things like
Mhm.
that. And this has also been 10 years now, so I don't feel bad talking about this. But anyway, point being, point being is I stayed up 48 hours. I handled and I
Mhm.
adjusted this equipment back, right, and the other. And then I get a call. I actually had two of these dishes. One was all the way across the river in a different location. That one went down. Right after I got this one back up, that one goes down.
Right.
So then I spend another 10 hours calling, troubleshooting, going on the radio,
Mhm.
calling them like,
Mhm.
hey, do this, hey, do that. And I'm talking to people that are non tech people, walking them through a very technically related problem. And I cannot for the life of me get this thing up and running. I call my boss, who's at another completely different location. I go, hey, remind me, what is this IP address again? I
Yeah.
need to get into, I'm trying to troubleshoot this. It's just not working. And, we have this backup section, I'm trying to get access to figure out what's going on. My boss goes, it's X, Y, and Z, but why do you need that IP address? You're not going to be able to get to it. So what do you mean? He's like, we took your shot offline. I said, What?" So at this point, I had been up about 58 hours. And I've been up about 58 hours, 10 of which had been just to deal with a shot that they had strategically taken offline without letting me
Right.
know as the administrator.
For those of you who don't understand, you've gotta go there. You've gotta be in Afghanistan. Was this during the cold season?
It was during the cold, rainy season.
Oh, so it's
The river,
cold. It's
so we were down by the Wadi too. So the river was, it's not impassable, but it's dangerous because we're having to take
yeah.
Vicks over a 4 to 6 foot deep torrential flood of water spout to get to this other fob and area.
Okay, so that's just the miserable season. That's what was just
Mhm.
that's the miserable season. You
Yep.
work until you're just exhausted, and then you get, "Oh, yeah, we turned that off." I How?
Well, I didn't care how at that point I started unleashing a tirade of string. I mean, I was active military, but it was just a laced profanity string of insults directed to my boss, directly to my, and keep in mind, if, for those of you that are military aware, I was an E3, he was an E5. This is the data chief. I am just cursing out the data chief over the phone. My local, my local, what we would call like a comm section head or whatever, walks in,
Right.
who's also a sergeant, And he goes, Reedy, who are you talking to like that? I tell him the name of the person, and he goes, give me that phone. Why are you talking to them that way? He takes the phone and I take it back and I slam it down shut. And he's like, what was that? That is not like you. And I explain it to him and he's like, oh, okay. And so then he calls him up and starts chewing him out as well.
Hey, for everybody on stream right now who doesn't get this, or you're watching in the future and you don't get this, let me explain. Imagine having a boss that can make you go outside and run around the building where you work until you pass
I have
out.
mopped up rain. That man
Yeah.
once made me mop up rain. Yes.
Mop up. Yes. Yes. Think of, ladies and gentlemen, that was not something Jack just made up. It's a thing, mopping in the rain.
Yep.
Get that in
Yep.
your head. That's what, and then to be in a position to where they've messed up so bad that you yell at them and you're completely 100% in the right and everyone knows it.
Oh,
Wow.
and even if I was in the wrong, at that point I was so just exhausted and exasperated and angry.
Oh,
I
yeah.
completely lost my professional cool, but that was so unusual for me. I was
Right.
generally a professional, really I took my job very seriously. So that's why whenever my local boss walks in and goes, "Who are you talking? Why are you talking to them that way?" Like that's where the question came in, not just, "Oh, Reedy's
Yeah.
messing up again." It was
Yeah.
literally yeah. So, but, we go back to the thing where, you don't you have to take care of your people, right?
Right. Right.
And communication is key. It's really
Hmm.
ironic that we work in a level of communication where we have trouble sometimes communicating, right?
Is that not the truth? Just the ability for two people to talk to one another. Like I've even, just read, and I'm getting on a brief thing real here. I mean, like I think that's actually becoming a bigger and bigger issue. Just being able to communicate between people, and we're setting up processes because it makes me think about. Oh boy, I'm really going to date myself here, Jack. Like one of my first real jobs, which is going to be like 20 something years ago.
Yeah.
Yikes. Here's what we were supposed to do. And this is a great example of you just messed up. Absolutely. The human communication. And here's was basically the story. We were going to migrate, and this is a developer story, by the way, y'all. So if you want to hear something other than security, here's your chance. We were going to migrate a Unix-based terminal application to Windows. So right there, Jack, I'm starting to hurt already thinking to myself, wait a minute, do people even know what Unix-based terminal applications are anymore? So it was from that to Windows. Now, here's the thing about this story that really gets me thinking back about how badly we kind of screwed this up. We weren't talking to the end user. We weren't thinking about taking care of the person who uses the application. We weren't even talking to their boss or their boss. We were talking to their boss. So we're levels away of abstraction in writing this
3 levels
application.
away. Wow.
Oh yeah, dude, we were way out. We were way out. And here's the thing. This person up here wanted to be able to report to a very important person that we are getting away from these Unix terminals and we are now getting into the world of Windows. Quite honestly, this organization, and this was around 1999, 2000, the typical workstation was still running DOS 622. There was
Oh,
no
wow.
email. They were way behind the curve. So to be able to field this thing was a huge deal. So we created it. It was great. So and everything was just fantastic. It looked great. So we called in the people from all over. Like they brought everyone in to this demo of this new application. That is the people who actually use it. They had no idea this was going on. They had no idea this thing was in development. It was going to be a big surprise for everybody. Jack, see the
Mm.
room, see the table. Okay, I
Yeah.
want everybody out there watching. See the table that you're standing in front of. It's just a rectangular table with 6 people on each side. Your friend, who's your co-developer, is right up there running the thing, and you're showing it off. And I've got a big smile on my face because I think this is the greatest thing ever. I look across the table, Jack, and one of the
Mhm.
ladies is crying.
Oh, like
Now, here's what
legitimately.
no, no, no. I mean, like, I didn't even have to go, is she crying? No, it was like, and in my arrogance and my audacity, which is part of this whole show, I thought like something was wrong with her. Maybe something, like I needed to stop the demo and find out if she was okay. And I will never forget these 4 words. This is a direct quote, everybody. I said, "Ma'am, are you?" I said, "Jeremy, stop the demo just for a second. Ma'am, are you okay?" She says these 4 words, "You've ruined our lives."
Wow.
And I was like, because here was the thing. When they ran this Unix-based demo, let me use my keyboard. They had the old mechanical keyboard where they would just park their hand right here on the keyboard and could fly through these pick tickets that they would take 1 day a month to put into the system. So for 1 day a month, they literally would sit there with one of those rubber things on their thumbs. I don't even know if anybody knows what I'm talking about, but these little rubber things on their thumbs, so they
Yeah.
could go flap, 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 flap through these tickets and just park their hand on the keyboard. Jack, they would go through these tickets at a rate of about 1 every 5 seconds. With
Wow.
our system, it was taking them about a minute and a half per ticket.
No
And when we
efficiency
real
markers.
Oh, when we realized what had happened, we flew into an absolute panic. We thought we were gonna, deliver this great application and we were gonna be the geniuses and everybody was, but then once we got through those levels of neat Windows to the actual end user, the person we should have been taking care of, it was completely 180 degrees out from what should have been there. So I think in that
Yeah.
particular story, turn down your audacity, come back down to earth, and do the thing where you say to yourself, okay, who's really the end user here? And focus on them, because if you get that part right, all these people up here will end up happy. They may not realize it yet, but they'll end up very happy if these folks start saying, we love this. And just to put a button on the story and end it, what we ended up doing was taking that whole interface, Jack, that was so fancy, and it became
Mhm.
like 8 text fields. That's all it
Th-
was. And every time you hit enter, it jumped to the next field. And there was no drop downs. There was no calendars that popped up so you could select the days. It was all manual. And not making this up, we did this massive shift. We did this like in the fall of 1999. They all delivered like Christmas presents to us because it worked so
Oh,
well. And it was like, yes, that's what I'm
there you
talking
go.
about.
That's the feedback, not the tears, the Christmas presents. That's what you want for a
When they start
man. I
sending
wish
us
I finished
Christmas
the project
presents
and got
because the
Christmas
app,
presents.
exactly, because the app was so good, they were like, yes, we love this thing. And we were getting these really sweet Christmas presents of like food and just stupid nerd, because they just thought we were a bunch of nerds up in this
Mhm.
office. So we got that. So, I mean, there's a thing to it. Being audacious is great, but for goodness sakes, turn it down, y'all. Turn it down.
Yeah,
Get to that
that's
end user. Go ahead, man. Go
on the right
ahead.
stakeholders. But I want to
Mhm.
call out Adam Alderman here. Brooks needs a freelance job telling bedtime stories. I agree with him, man. It's always great. Uh,
When I used to work at this one company, I'm not making this up, y'all, and I'm hoping maybe somebody from this company will know who it is. I'm just Lockheed Martin. Oh, didn't say that. There used to be tales. There was this thing I would do about once every 2 weeks. It was Pop Pops, because that's what my grandkids call me, Pop Pop. Pop Pop's Tales of Horror. And I would tell like horrific IT stories. So yeah, I'm down for it.
there you go. Exactly. The Tales of Horror. We might actually steal that for our Halloween version of this. But yeah, like I said, guys, we're gonna
Oh,
have a lot more of these coming back. Really enjoying this. Hope you guys are as well. But you're talking about Audacity, Brooks, and I'll tell you, it brings back like the most audacious customer that I've ever had, because realistically, when you're talking IT, we're talking about customers, even if they're internal, even if they're
right.
coworkers, whatever else. If you
Right.
work in IT or you work in IT security, your users are your customer base. So you have to think of what the
Exactly.
customer is engaging with. What is the UX? Is security, passive or almost transparent
Mhm.
to them? Like, what is the user experience is always a good question. But I'll tell you, this was a couple years ago. I was in the military and I was a SOC analyst at the time, I think I was SOC level 2 at that point or something like that. But I
Mhm.
will tell you the most just audacious customer we ever had was we had, and this is very common in SOC environments, is we had a weekly report that would go out that is based on the bandwidth. And you can do these reports, if
Mhm.
you guys are unfamiliar with them, you can do these reports based on region, you can do the bandwidth based on user interface, based on computer system. And this is a very common thing that you'll get just to keep an eye on the quote unquote health of your network to see
Mhm.
realistically it can trip some flags where you see bulk exportation of data from a single source or multiple sources that's unusual. You might have a compromise going on. Can also speak to what your we called them circuits, but what your circuit looks like from your ISP down to your actual area.
Right.
So we get these reports and we get one report in on the normal day and something is off. We have a user and a single computer that is massively over the transfer rates by quite a bit. Like the number 2 on the list, it was
Mhm.
3 times higher than the number 2 individual on the list.
Dude, in the places I've been, you see something like that, you go tackle them. Like,
Yeah.
there's not even you physically go tackle this person off their machine. So what was this person doing?
So, well, what we ended up doing is we ended up doing, it was brought to us because it's instant response because that was the
Right.
question. What are they doing? Where are they at? Whatever else. And what we found is we found that it was a staff sergeant based out of Hawaii. If you
Okay.
guys are unfamiliar with, the obviously Hawaii is way out there. So they utilize a satellite communication, which is not uncommon
Mhm.
for internet communications there. But at the time, the DoD was utilizing a satellite communication. So it was actually even more expensive per byte.
Mhm.
And what we ended up finding out was there was this staff sergeant there who it was just a regular individual, I think in like admin or intel or something like that, like non-tech, no reason to be downloading this much stuff, but they had this massive volume,
Ooh,
multiple gigs.
this is going in a
And
bad direction already. This is
we
starting to
yeah,
hurt.
we
This is
pulled
starting to hurt.
everything off. We pulled everything off of this person's computer, and turns out they had been visiting adult content.
Oh,
But not just
no.
it gets worse. Hold on, it gets worse. Apparently on Friday, they had opened something like 20 plus tabs of adult content, left it, and then it autoplayed all weekend straight into Monday. And that's when we got the notification. So obviously we shut them off. I mean, that's a huge terms
Yeah,
of service
exactly.
violation. You have no reason for the bandwidth, anything else like that.
Right.
It was
Right.
such a unique instance though, right? That we were like, okay, this person obviously is not listening to any of the whenever you log into federal systems, there's always a big banner that says what you can and
Oh,
can't
yeah.
do, and you're
Yeah,
being
right.
monitored and blah, blah.
Right.
So they're at work on base watching this stuff. They're obviously not paying attention where that terms of service is because it also says it in there. You can't do this. So we shut off the account, we lock out the account, we reach out
Of course.
through something, we do something a little unusual because we want like officer to officer, like top dog. So
Right.
we pass it up to
Right.
our E9 to go talk to his E9 and like, hey, you got to stop doing this. You can't do this, whatever else. Right.
Right. Right.
We leave for the day because that conversation is going to happen tomorrow. He calls overnight and gets his account turned back on and then goes and does it again.
This story just went from good to great. He got
I have
back
no
on.
He got he not no, he called our watch desk, our 24-hour watch desk. Somehow this poor Lance Corporal that answers, and from what we talked to the guy about, he's
Mhm.
throwing his weight around like, "I'm a staff
Yep.
sergeant. I've got work to
Oh,
do.
yeah.
You need
I
this,
can
that, and
hear
the
it.
other."
I can
And
hear it.
he
Mm.
gets access back to his account and immediately jumps back on, which keep in mind, all of this is blocked. This is all blocked already. He's finding sites that are outside of our block list. He's going out of his way, extremely out of his way. So at that point, we directly called up his commanding officer and said, we are shutting him down again, and you need to pull him into your office and stop this.
Wait a minute. Whoa, 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 whoa. This just took a weird turn. You're telling me this guy went in and instead of, like, covering his tracks, he jumped back on the train.
He jumped, not only jumped back, he
Wow.
didn't put two and two together of like, oh, maybe I was, caught doing this stuff.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I should, nope, just went right back into it. And
Wow.
dirty little secret for those that are new or into this field. If you work in IT, because the internet is a thing that exists, adult
Yes, it
content
is.
sometimes happens. So
Unavoidable.
apologize. Don't want to offend sensibilities there, but it's
It's
unfortunately it's a thing that you experience in this field.
y'all, it's gonna happen. It is unavoidable. And the thing about it is that just like Jack was saying there, because I have some stories like this too. The level of just like is it audacity or just stupidity? I don't know what it is, but like You're
To be
just sit there,
professional, I'll call it Audacity, but yeah.
yeah, I know exactly. I when it's happened it happened me the last time it happened when I saw somebody doing something like that and we went to them. Like you're just like, I can't believe you thought this was going to be okay. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. So for any of you out there, if you're just starting your careers and you're hearing this and you're like, wow, how could they talk about that? I got some news for you. You're going to run into it. Just wait. You're going to run into somebody who does something crazy using company or government resources, and you're going to think, how could they? Oh, it happens.
Side
It's going
note,
to happen today. I guarantee
I
you,
just
somewhere
a
today.
couple years ago, I found somebody using a customer asset and they popped because they went to the Tor network. And I was like, wow, that's really weird. You shouldn't be going on that on a company asset. Let me take a look at what you're doing. So I reverse engineered the connection. I reviewed
Right.
what he was doing. Turns out the individual went and bought drugs using a company asset, and I was able to track all of it in a and
Wow.
they were in one of our countries that was extremely anti-drug, so they were using the Tor network to be able to get their purchase around. So I had to report it, not just to HR, but that also went to the division head for that particular region, and
Wow.
they were like, "Oh."
Wow. Yeah.
So real quick
If,
little snippet there, but yeah, you
yeah,
find some weird stuff, guys.
yeah, and y'all, it's gonna happen. And the best thing that Jack and I could tell you is that when it happens, be professional, be
Mhm.
cool, and just do your job and just report it up and then get out of the way. And
Yep.
I can just about guarantee for any of you out there, particularly those of us, those that are going through our training with Jack and people like Josh Mason, you're learning about IT, cybersecurity, and all this stuff. It is going to happen. It will happen. And so when these things happen, all we can do at this point is just recommend to you be a pro, know how to do the job, make sure you got the training so you can do the job so that when they come around with the, did you dot your I's, did you cross your T's? Yes, I did.
Yep.
And then just let the stuff happen because crazy will happen.
Hey, it's April Fools, man. Of course, we got to talk about some
Exactly.
fools.
Exactly.
So with that, let me go ahead and we'll pivot just a little bit off of that subject real quick. And I want to hit and say congratulations. Our customer submitted story,
Oh.
Lady Miao Ing from Indonesia. I hopefully pronounced that correctly. I apologize if I butchered it. I will note that there have been some small changes to the original story for readability as I read this off, guys, but the events are basically still there as well. Okay, so I'm going to read this for you guys. I was new to the IT support role, and that day I tried to perform a power supply replacement on one of the PCs inside the IT room. It was
Mhm.
unusual because it looked a lot like a gaming PC, and we were told it can't be turned off or on for a long period of time. So
Huh.
I grabbed the new power supply, brought it to the server room, unplugged the PC from the power socket, and removed the old power supply from the
All right.
casing. Then installed the new power supply, connected all the power connectors, plugged the main cable into the power socket, and then pressed the power button. I heard a bam sound,
Oh
and the
my.
PC died with the slight visible smoke coming out of what
Oh.
used to be the PC. Turns out I had accidentally plugged the power connector to the wrong part of the PC, and it fried the entire SATA HDD hard disk
Oh.
that contained full episodes of Detective Conan anime series that was downloaded by my IT manager. Not sure what that is, not asking y'all to look it up. Thank God he didn't report or punish me because of this mistake since it was a company asset, but I think it was because he used it for his own personal interest. Good
Wow.
job. Again, some audacity. And it's not the first time that I've heard of people, utilizing company resources for that. I'll tell you a really quick snippet. One of the times I was in Afghanistan, we showed up, assets were everywhere. We didn't know what was on our register and what we're responsible for. So we go tent to tent and we're asking for what is the government assets. Let me look at your IT. Let me look at everything.
Right.
We go to the supply warehouse and we're looking at their computers and we're like, why do you have these? They were all gaming computers in
Oh.
Afghanistan, as well
Oh.
as a 24 port Cisco switch. Turns out that the previous unit had bought all of these things so that way they could do a local LAN party server there in the supply tent while we were deployed.
Wow.
And we just inherited them
Wow.
as IT individuals. And but the really funny part was we tried to put them on our roster, our role, And because they were the supply guys, they're like, no, we're keeping these. We're, we're keeping them. There are supply computers because we know the second you put them on your role for responsibility, you're going to
Right.
take them from us and give us some crap. We want these.
Yep.
We're keeping these.
Man, that makes me think of talking about Audacity. We
Hmm.
had this one office, it was a fusion center, and we had a contractor leave. Just for whatever reason, he left. And as per standard stuff, security came over to pick up the PC, and we were going to cycle it through. So this young airman comes over, and he's down there, and you literally hear him, "Oh, could somebody come over here and help me, please?" So like we go over to see what's going on, and there's way too many cables coming out the back of this box, Jack.
Mm.
Way too many cables, like thick looking whatevers. So we start to looking at what this guy's done, and we realized this guy has put an entire home entertainment setup inside his work PC. And by the way, this is a DoD PC. So like you're not allowed to open these boxes. Like only certain people can open the box. This guy's
They
gone
used
in.
to send an alert if they got open.
Yeah, so how did he do this? I don't know, but not only did he do it, but he had run cables through all the cubicle walls. And like we were trying to trace where they went to the screens in the fusion center and the speakers that were up in the ceiling. They were having like these awesome movie nights at like 10 o'clock because all that was in the room at that point was this guy and the firewall people. And they had like an
Wow.
entertainment center. And like when we started looking at the PC, like it was like just walk away. Security, it's yours. We don't even know what you're going to want to, just go away. This is ridiculous. So, I mean, it's amazing to me, Jack, that when we tell these stories of Audacity, just how audacious people can do with stuff like this. And so, for please, for y'all watching, don't do this stuff. Just walk away. Just like if you think you can do it, no, you can't. Just say no. Walk away. Go home. Okay.
It just be assured. You know what? I'll even say it this way: be assured in the knowledge that you probably could do it, but you value your job more, and you're not going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Exactly. Exactly. Be patient. You can go home and game all you want. Just
Mhm.
be cool. You'll be all right.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's actually funny you say that because I remember one of the things that I used to do was it was that same time in Afghanistan that we were talking about where it was miserable, it was the rainy season, all that
Right.
stuff. I was on the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift during that time. So it was cold, rainy, miserable.
Yes.
And while I was in the Combat Operations Center, it's also called, which is also referred to as the COC.
Right.
Um, I should clarify that this is not a workplace that you guys would think of. This is literally a sand mound with other sand mounds around me, covered by a sand mound. It's a bunker of sandbags.
Yes.
It is with a couple fold out tables and 10 laptops and assets there. It is a sand pit. So I didn't
It
feel bad
is.
about this, but we had two TVs mounted surprisingly on the sand walls. And around because nobody was operating, and the only reason why I was there to make sure was to in case somebody started getting attacked overnight, I was the first
Mhm.
relay. So I was just
Yep.
listening to the radio and I would do a check-in once an hour. Beyond that, if all my work was done with IT, I'd turn on a movie on the
Right.
on the
Right.
on the
Right.
monitors. Like I'd
Right.
smoke and joke in there. We'd have people that would show up and they'd bring, snacks like what do you call it? Beef jerky or whatever, or
Yeah.
sunflower seeds. And we just sit there, have a
Yeah.
little snacks, commiserate about the day while we're watching whatever new thing came in from wherever. And I mean, I get it. I get overnight shift and stuff like that, but you cannot
Right.
rewire an actual
No.
standing building facility.
No, no, and worse than that, you're in a classified facility doing this, and even to this
Oh,
point, oh no, this was
oh,
open
you're
storage
talking it was a
secret.
skiff.
Oh,
Wow.
yes, son. This is
Wow.
this is amazing audacious, like, to see it. And because literally, I remember our colonel, he came in and he literally was looking at it, and he was looking at my boss and looking at me, and and literally at one point, because he was very stern, he was a very stern guy,
Mhm.
unless you knew him. And if you
Yeah.
knew him, he would kinda drop that sternness because he just turned to me at one point and he was like, And I looked at him, I was like, Rick? And he's like, wow. Like, wow.
Wow.
And he turned and walked off. And I was like, yeah. Because we went over to his house later that week and he did like a little thing in his house. We went over there and he's like, I'm so impressed. He said, I don't know what to say. Like, this guy should be charged, but I am so impressed that he did this. He said, because
It's that Ron Burgundy movie. Just, I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. Like,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, here was the thing about it was, and just to give you an idea of like things you need to think about, there's a lot of assets. If you physically monk with them, they're going to throw an alarm. And
Yeah.
these PCs were the same way. If you mucked with them, they were going to throw an alarm. Did not throw an alarm. Never went
Yeah.
offline, but never threw an alarm. So everybody's like, okay, how? How did you do this? You know, and at this point he was gone and he wasn't talking.
At
It was great.
Yeah, that's actually really hilarious just to leave that
Yeah.
up and running and everything else like that.
Yeah,
You know
it go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's just one of those things when you start to realize things like that, and you've got to learn when to say no. No, I don't even want to know. I don't want to find out. On the corollary of that, sometimes you do really need to know what's going on. The whole Audacity thing. One of the last jobs that I had within the DoD, there was a situation. I'm just going to say a situation happened. Okay,
Mm,
and the person who was their lead developer basically had quit. He had just
yeah,
left. No easy handoff. No, this is what I'm doing. He just left. And so these two guys are trying to sell this job all around the company. All over the company. These two guys are trying to say, "Hey, come on in. Don't worry." And I think everybody was smart enough to go, "Wait a minute. Do you know exactly what's going on there?" No, we don't. Okay, thank you. Bye. Except this one. This one had the audacity to go, sure, I can do it. It sounds great. It sounds like a challenge, you know? Actually, I think
yeah.
what I said to him is that stupid, idiotic line I say, which is, well, tell me about this opportunity. You know, it's like, no, 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 no. It's a disaster in progress, is what it is. I got there, Jack. There were processes in production that I couldn't trace back to source code. Like, I don't know where that app came from. And there were some apps that were magical. And I mean magical, like somebody would have like a field scanner. I know it's a mouser, but just pretend it's a field scanner, like a little IoT device. They would
Yeah.
boop and do something, right? It would appear on this one server and you'd sit and watch the server like, okay, what's it going to do? And suddenly it's like 4 servers over in the database, but no connection was open between these 2 systems, and you can't figure out how it happened. I mean, literally, we were pulling our hair out. And what
Wow.
had happened was, to ensure he couldn't be fired, he had created these insane architectures. And finally, what it was watching me like on the verge of a heart attack. This one really nice lady came forward. She was kind of like, let me explain to you how Brian did this. And she pulls out this plotter paper sheet, Jack, and goes,
Wow.
here's the architecture. And I'm looking at this, and that one particular thing, this is what he did, y'all. The scanner, data in, would get written to a file that was on a network share. So I didn't see network traffic. It just got written to a share. Computer 2 had a file watcher open on that. When it saw a new file go, it would open the file, read in the contents, create an XML object, send it over to server 3. Server
Mm,
3 would then take that data, read it in to a Oracle client piece of software, create write an update or a delete or whatever, and then would write that to the database. So if you didn't
wow.
have that architecture, it looked like freaking magic. You just sit there like, how is this happening? How is this
Yep.
happening? So, sometimes, it was literally sometimes it's just unavoidable, y'all. You'll have the audacity to say, I can do this. You'll run up against the audacity of, you're not going to believe what I did. And right in the middle, you're going to get squeezed and it's going to blow your minds because people are
So,
people are people.
yeah, and with that, I mean, I'll piggyback off your, story of you being audacious, and I'll say one about mine where I nearly lost somebody, as in like a team member
Yeah.
because my last half of the military, I was working on what you would consider consulting teams.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
had individuals on there that were GS-13s, and they were technicians. They were,
Yeah.
specialists in their field, excellent at what they did. We also had contractors with us as well.
Mm-hmm.
So as a Marine and as a staff sergeant, I was the, right hand of the gunnery sergeant. And then I had two sergeants on my team and then another three civilians, all
Mm-hmm.
GS-13s. And we were trying to put in what we call a network security monitor, which is, you monitor the network traffic as it
Mm-hmm.
transits, past a certain point and everything else like that. This individual was CCIE certified. CCIE certified. He knows switching. He knows routing.
This
He
is gonna
understands
be good.
it really well.
Yep.
My nature, I show up wondering why the job isn't done, wondering what's happening, trying to help, trying to assist. And I like to vocalize everything. I like to vocalize everything just to double check, triple check. Maybe somebody's
Right.
so I vocalize just a checklist of some of the most basic crap ever, just a ridiculous amount. And this guy looks at me and he's like, I've been doing this for 24 years. I checked those things. Thank you. Walked
Yeah.
outside, took a break, sat down with a cigarette, everything else like that. And I was like, I was just double checking, man. Like, and he's like, no, I know what I'm doing. He took it offensively because he thought I was saying, I don't know what you don't know what you're doing or
Right.
whatever, because it was so basic. What
Oh,
ended up
right.
happening was there was an encapsulation happening in the network traffic. So we were unable to see anything. We didn't know where that encapsulation was happening at, though.
Right.
So we ended up finding out that it was much higher in the architecture. If we actually wanted to drop in a solution there, they would have had to like re-engineer the encapsulation that was happening. It was a whole thing. There was an IPsec tunnel.
Right.
Point being though, is it was beyond either one of us because we didn't have all the information about the architecture of the network, that network layer at
Mhm.
that time.
Mhm.
However, me and him sat down over some drinks later on, and we had to have he had to come to Jesus meeting with me. Like, listen, I understand what it is that you're doing. I understand the position that you're in. I understand that you
Right.
need answers. Please recognize that I am an expert at my field and I know the simple stuff. And I responded, I was like, I do. That was never the thing. Please understand that I will always check all the bases because these are the questions I'm going to be asked.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
But it would, because I didn't have that, and it could have been just the way I was holding myself that day or whatever else,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it came off wrong, and sometimes you gotta just be able to be I called it when I was in instant response, eating crow, sometimes you just
Yep.
you gotta be able to just say, look, hey, I was wrong or I came off the wrong way. No problem. No big deal. I
Yep.
apologize. Let's keep moving forward.
Yeah, and that's so important. And for anyone who's watching, if you're beginning your career, that was some sage advice that just went by because that's going to happen all the time. And on the other side, even if you're CCIE, if you're like Brian McGann level CCIE, stuff like that, when somebody like Jack comes to you and starts asking the basic questions, don't get offended. They're asking for a reason. They're not asking usually just because they've got a reason. In the case of being a Marine, Jack knew full well what the questions were about to be asked, and he better. And by the way, a quick plug: I cannot recommend that world enough to people because one of the things you learn in that world is when you get and ask a question, your answer needs to be 5 seconds long, and it better be dead point. And nothing will impress an employer in the commercial world more than when they say, what's going on with this? And then you can go blah, 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 because they're going to be like, that's what I'm talking about. That's what
Mm.
I need to hear right there. I can't recommend it enough. So, learning to handle these crazy blunders, these audacious moments, being a professional and being able to put together that bullet point, and by the way, having the training to know what the heck you're talking about. It's just incredible to be in those positions because crazy is going to happen. April Fool's Day is going to happen every day in IT,
Yeah.
every
Well, I mean,
day.
we're reviewing it today, but I mean, this is a daily occurrence. It has been
Yeah,
for I've got usually a couple stories per year as we're going on and on about stuff, you know.
yeah.
I'll tell you another one where it was just kind of me being silly and falling on my face. So, as I discussed network security monitoring, if you guys are unfamiliar with network security monitoring, it is literally as you have network traffic that transits a specific point in a network, you capture it, make an exact replicated copy of it, you analyze it through automation, and then you store it, at least portions of it. You can carve it out and say, I only want to store this, I only want to store that. So, one of the things that I always enabled, at least at that point, was I'd only store plain text network traffic because I didn't have the capability of breaking SSL at the time.
Mhm, mhm.
So because of the security on, the traffic, I had no capability of breaking into that. So I only stored plain text data. And I started getting alerts, and it was really odd because I was investigating one thing as an incident and
Right.
doing threat hunting. I was investigating this, and I was giving the feedback to my boss, who was literally sitting across the table from me. We're in a basic conference room,
Yep.
sitting directly across the table from me. I'm verbally saying what it is that I've found so far and giving an update on the investigation I'm doing as part of threat hunting. I start getting alerts on the network security monitoring tool. And I'm looking at them, and um it's talking about DLP type stuff of sensitive data in plain text. And we're like, what? Okay, that's weird. That's very odd. So I look, and I see in plain text this short blurb that was almost word for word what I had just said. And you want to talk about like a heart
Wow.
bumping drop moment. Keep in mind, at
Yeah.
the time, I was looking for advanced persistent threats. I was an active duty military member looking for
Right.
advanced persistent threats. And I thought we were like compromise. And I'm sitting in a skiff, and my words are coming across the screen
Oh,
in my network
wow.
security. A heart just might, drop to the stomach. I'm like sweating. Like, what is that? That is the worst compromise I think I've ever seen. So I'm
Mhm.
describing what I'm seeing, and I show my boss and everything else like that. And then I see another update come across, and I click that alert, and I see the data again, and it's another update. And I'm like, something's happening.
Yeah.
So we get completely distracted from the original investigation. For about 90 minutes, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at network security monitoring, what could be gone. Like we're
Yeah.
putting one of our other individuals, he's putting tape over like cameras and microphones and stuff.
Oh,
Like
yeah. Yeah.
we were, turns out what happened was, and we found this about 90 minutes later because, hubris. Uh, we, as I was describing to my gunny what was going on, he was keeping notes in a Notepad plus plus document. The thing is that the Notepad plus plus document was saved on our group's file share. Our group's file share was not on the local base, it was on
Right.
a server in Virginia. So the local base, our traffic, plain text, because that's the protocol Notepad plus plus was using at the time,
Right.
transited past our NSM. So we were literally watching ourselves and the updates he was giving as it was saving to the file share. But because we just didn't think of the traffic flow, it looked like, and we didn't realize this room was being also captured in all the things we were doing. It looked like we were
Wow.
having a sneaky little device go on. So yeah, my audacity and
Wow.
my hubris and my mess up there, where we were just like, why are we seeing all these such detailed notes about what we're doing right now? And it was just ridiculous.
It's
It,
just
we
amazing. It's amazing to me to hear these stories. Like everybody wants to put like this flash and glamour around IT. You've been watching too many movies, by the way, if you think that. All this flash and glamour, and it's like it's not true. I guess my last story about Audacity that I could give you on that one was we were seeing some servers start to shut down, like go away. And
Mm,
these were, I can't talk much about the problem, but basically, if you want to think of it in global replication servers, just think that way.
Okay.
and they were replicating data all around the globe. But one of them kind of just went poof away, and we couldn't figure out what the problem was. So I contact my friend who's over in the data center, and I say, "Hey, what's the problem over there?" Now, here's the thing: he thought that I was talking about something else. Like he didn't know there was like servers shutting down. So he says, "Oh, it's just a thing. The toilets upstairs, something's wrong with them, and we're getting water coming through the ceiling." And I'm like,
Okay.
"There's water coming through the ceiling into the server room?" But he says, don't worry, don't worry, it's not getting on the servers. I'm like, "How is that possible?" I think his name was Nick. I was like, "How exactly is that possible, Nick?" He said, "We put tarps over the racks." To which I said, there's plastic tarps over the racks. And this wasn't the smartest crew, okay? This crew over there, they knew how to pick things up, slam things in, and then we would go plug everything up. Literally, as I say the magic words, "Nick, do you know what an ACPI thermal event is?" It's like I conjured it into existence, and the machine started shutting down one after another after another. So, like,
Oh
it's
man.
it's one of those things where these blunders that happen,
Mm.
like you just can't believe they're happening. You just cannot believe it's in front of you. But I'm gonna tell you, it's down to stuff like training, it's stuff like actually studying, it's knowing your stuff.
And
It all
remaining
comes
calm in the
from that.
situation.
Huh?
Also, remaining calm in the situation. That's a really key skill to have. Is just to be able to be like, okay, this is
Talk on
happening.
that. Talk
Well,
on
this is
that.
happening, and we don't need to lose our heads. Let's figure this out and be smart about it. When
Yeah.
you obviously being part of the military, you get fighting training, you get some of that
Yeah.
stuff. One of the biggest things that they teach you at the very beginning stages is just how to breathe when you both take a punch and when you throw a
Yeah.
punch, whenever
Mhm.
whenever you strike, the different methods of maintaining calm while you're literally getting the crap kicked out of you.
Mhm.
It's the same thing in
Mhm.
IT and data. Whenever it looks like you're getting struck, you're getting an attack, you've got to be able to remain calm and think on your feet to adjust appropriately and defend yourself. And the thing
Exactly.
and one of the for yours and the shutting down stuff, right? We had this wasn't me. I watched it, but it wasn't part of it. We had a threat hunting team that they would do threat hunting via PowerShell collection scripts as far as the data layer. So they
Yeah.
would, send out queries and requests very specifically for behaviors that they're looking for, patterns or things like that.
Right.
And then
Right.
they would get a pullback on any systems, and then they would deep dive forensically into those systems that came back hitting their criteria for the threat hunt.
Right.
Well, they were doing it on our actual SOC, our organization. They were just downstairs in the basement, and they're doing it on our SOC and they're on our organization. The thing is we had an unusual at the time we had unusual clients for our SOC operations floors. So this is a theater-like floor that went down into a
Yeah.
basement level, dropped about 10 to 20 feet in total of across like 4 or 5 rows. And the very top row, there was a watch officer who could see
Mhm.
almost every single computer from behind in front of him. And you just saw almost moving like clockwork across the row of this stuff, blue screen of death, blue screen of death, blue screen of death, blue screen of death,
Wow.
because they were utilizing thin clients and they didn't play well with the collection scripts that were being asked, and they were causing temporary disrupt. So all and it looked from his perspective like straight up we're getting hacked, like just
Yeah.
like we're getting a DDoS,
Yeah.
um and then it turns out whenever everybody freaked out, they got ops back up and running, but we had to roll over to our warm site, like, because all of our analysts are now down,
Mhm.
our knock analysts are
Mhm.
down. Like, we had to roll to warm site while we figured out what was going on for the next 45 minutes and restart
Right.
the back end mainframe.
Wow. Wow. You know what? I hate to say it, and I'm not doing a pitch here or anybody, but man, you want to talk about why people go to the cloud? It's that stuff right there, because now that's somebody
Mhm.
else's problem. That's Azure, AWS. They can handle that nonsense. I just want to run my software places we turn our head to avoid the blast. Yikes.
Oh man, that's great. Well,
That's always
Brooks,
how it is.
we're coming up to the top of the hour. So,
Yes, yes.
as always, I want to say thank you so much. I
Oh,
appreciate you. I
thank
appreciate
you.
you hanging out with me and, getting to hear your stories and your insights on all of this stuff, man.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. Believe me, Jack and I have about 1,000 more stories like this. A lot of them are probably not safe for work, so we can't even tell them. But the fact is that this, oh, it's true. There's horrors that have happened.
Yeah.
Horrors. Horrors. Like I could
I
ruin
wish
y'all's
I
day with some of these stories. But the thing is, uh, there's some little things that Jack and I said in here, like stay calm, get trained, know what you're looking for. But can I say stay calm again? That is your
yeah,
number one tool in your bag to pull out when it all goes wrong. Slow your breathing down, focus on what's happening because it's probably something stupid.
yeah, basically. Control what you
Something
can.
audacious. Exactly.
Excellent. Well, Brooks, I'm going to go ahead and sign off with everyone. Thank you so much
Ah,
again.
yes,
Definitely
thank you.
appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
So, guys, that's going to wrap up today's stream. As a reminder, I want to let you know, please be sure that you like, follow, or subscribe on your choice of social platform with notifications on so you can stay in the loop for details on our next stream, as well as if we're doing any community giveaways surrounding this type of stuff. We'll be live again next Tuesday, April 5th, and we're looking forward for you to join us and so we can hear from you again. You can look for the replay across our social channels and also on the INE website. As always, please bring your questions for next week. We'll see you next time. Until then, have a great weekend. Be safe. Bye.